Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. Now, we're going to have a very interesting conversation about incentivizing employees to reduce turnover. I mean, we're just talking to the politicians about NAPCO and being employed and people just not being incentivized enough to stay at their jobs. And of course, it's the last quarter of the year. What should employers be doing to foster team building and to minimize employee turnover in the new year? We are joined by a very brilliant young woman. She's been in the space, the HR space, for over 15 years. She's also the CEO of Kusi Consulting. She's going to help us really understand what employers need to do to ensure that their employees are upbeat and excited for the new year. Good morning, Rita.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good. Thank you so much for being with us.
No problem.
Now, let's start off by really defining what employee turnover is. What exactly is that?
So before we do that, first of all, I love your show. I love your set.
Thank you.
I love the chemistry between you and Isaac. I think you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
I just want to add to the last segment, I don't dabble into politics. But they kind of crossed into my sector, which is HR. And I want to say that, we can honestly do so much more with less people.
Yeah.
I go to shops and places all the time in Accra, and I realize a lot of companies are actually overstaffed.
Yeah.
They're overhiring, and I think they think they have good intentions, but they're not thinking long-term.
Yeah.
The long-term effects is what leads to unemployment in this country.
What's wrong with overhiring? Because I'm assuming, like Richard said, if you came to meet a bad situation, you need more people to solve it.
Not necessarily. I think your response was actually correct, because if you get a few people who work efficiently, diligently, and effectively, you can achieve so much more than having, let's say, loads of people who are not really... For instance, I went to a department store here in Ghana. I won't name which one. And I was searching for something within the aisle, and I couldn't find it. So I asked a few of the shop attendants, and no one could help me. And I'm thinking, wow, there's so many of you just walking up and down the aisle. So if you can't help me, I mean, what good are you to really be here?
Yeah.
So I think employers try to cut corners in the short term, but in the long term, it has more damaging effect for the employees.
Wow.
Yeah, so we really have to
be mindful of
that. Yes, we do. So all right, so now on to today's topic. So incentivizing employees to reduce turnover. So turnover is, as employers, you always have to examine how many employees you have leaving your organization and how many employees are coming in. At least at the end of every quarter, every month, you should be able to have the numbers down, right? You have to track your metrics. Who's coming in, who's going out, what is the financial burden on the organization? So turnover is actually one of the highest costs to employers.
Wow.
And I think as a nation, unfortunately, we don't value people as much, and we don't value money.
Why do you say that?
Because if you value money and you look at the numbers, then you would be mindful and you would want to invest in the talent that you have now within your organization.
So are you saying it's actually cheaper and better to retain your current employees than to be reshuffling?
Of course. I mean, think about it. If you have a talented employee who leaves your organization, you're going to probably have to pay more than what you were paying that employee to bring in that same talent. And then the cost associated with having to find them, having to invest the time.
Wait for them to adapt to the new environment and
it's
everything.
a lot. It's a costly mistake that I think a lot of employers make. And there are ways around it. Throughout the year, there are certain activities, certain things that employers are supposed to do to be able to retain that talent.
Wow.
Yeah, so now I think the last quarter of the year, if you have not done right by your employees all year, the last quarter of the year is the time for you to honestly redeem yourself and then build that relationship.
But I think a lot of employers just assume if you're working for me and I'm paying you, that should be enough. Why should I go the extra mile?
Let's stop assuming. I think that's the mistake that employers are doing. A lot of employers don't even have HR managers or HR consultants, because they are assuming, they are thinking they can do things themselves. And no, you have to get professionals who know what they're doing. So yeah, end of the year, you must pay attention. It's all about your employees, no matter what. what can you do to make sure that your employees are satisfied? January is when employees, because think about it, new year, new me mentality.
Time to reflect on
New
where I
year,
am
new
and
me.
what I
Exactly.
need to change.
Exactly. So
that's true.
employees are looking for a way out if they are
Wow.
unhappy. So that last quarter is really an employer's chance, your last chance
To make a mark.
to be able to keep that employee on
Now,
board.
Rita, let's talk. When we talk about employee turnover, is it an issue in Ghana at all? Like I'm saying, if I've never thought of retaining my employees, and I just think that they are not loyal people and they're just leaving, should I now pay critical attention to it and see that it is an issue I'm dealing with and I need to do something about it?
It is definitely an issue. We were just discussing how, when I first came and I sat in the segment, we were discussing how some employees have not been paid for months.
4 months, yeah.
I mean, what do you think happens with those people who are unsatisfied? They might be able to take it the first month, the second month, the third month, and then after that, they're going to want out, right? And it's interesting. We are talking about employee incentives when some employees haven't even gotten a month's paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, just goes to show you where we are as a nation. I mean, we're very, very, very much behind.
Wow.
And it's time to pay attention to our HR sector.
Wow. And from your experience, what time, for employers who are watching, around what time would more employees decide, maybe I want to leave this job so that they can also ensure that they catch them? Because sometimes it's not that you don't appreciate them, it's just that you are not aware that you're supposed to do this. I mean, I hear companies go on retreat, and I'm thinking these people they must have a lot of money to take their staff out on retreat. How important are all these things?
It's critical to the organization. You know, you think you're taking them somewhere to just have fun and enjoy, but that's not what you're doing. You're actually team building. You're investing in that employee. So throughout the year, at the end of every quarter, at least at KUSI Consultant, at the end of every quarter, we do what we call employee appraisals, right? Which is an employee evaluation.
Okay.
So at the end of every month, the employee kind of knows how they're progressing. So the end of the year, you as an employer, it's not only time for employees to clean house, it's also time for employers to clean house, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of the staff that's not really being productive. That employment, that appraisal, right? The evaluation form is what employees can actually use as a basis to maybe discharge someone. Throughout the year, you've gotten 4 or 3 performance evaluations.
Yeah.
They're not satisfactory. Every evaluation is unsatisfactory. You know, it helps you to do that. But so when we talk about incentivizing employees, a survey was conducted, and it's actually when employees were asked about what keeps them on the job, they actually mentioned financial rewards and incentives, right? So you have to have the corporate retreats. If you're thinking about training, right, perhaps team building. Team building training would probably be the best training for you to focus on. I see employees of certain organizations taking part in marathons, you know, as a team. So this is the time to really invest in the employees and make them feel that they matter. Holiday parties.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to work for corporate America, I mean,
You do
we
holiday.
used to look forward to, I'll call my coworkers, hey girl, what are you wearing? You know, it's an exciting time for employees. So you definitely want to do those little things, and employees don't take that for granted. It actually really matters. It matters to them. So.
Now, speaking of cleaning out, how important is it for those quarterly feedback, right? So let's say I'm working for someone for the whole year from January to November. I've not heard anything. And then I get fired in December, and I'm surprised. Like, you didn't tell me anything, right? And the other way around, how important is it for employees to also at least give feedback to things that are worrying them? Because sometimes your employer might not know, and you also don't know. So it doesn't come as a shock when you're expecting to stay with this employee for at least 3 to 5 years, and within 1 year they leave.
Okay, that's actually a good point. The issue that I think we have with employees in this country is that employees really don't know or understand their worth. You know, so for instance, with not being paid for about 3 months, if you look in the labor contract, I'm sure there are clauses against that. You know, but employees don't really know where to go about it. You know, with regards to the performance evaluation, it's just a way to boost morale. I mean, I observe our staff, and at the end of every quarter, when they get that performance evaluation and they read it and they see what they have achieved within that quarter, maybe what some of their challenges are. And then we don't just hand them the form. We actually sit and we have a discussion. What were some of the challenges that you faced this quarter? No one likes more than being... everybody wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be able to express themselves. So it is up to employers to really have a culture where they have like an open door policy where employees can go to HR, voice their opinions. If they're having challenges, they can just go in and just sit and talk about it, you know, because the quarterly performance, I mean, think about it. You work at City, right? So let's say for a year you've worked here and you don't know how you're doing. You just wake up and you come to work every day, right? You don't know what's going on, how you're doing. They don't know what your challenges have been. How does that make you feel? You're disregarded. You're disregarded. So it's all about boosting employee morale if you want to retain the talent within your organization, and then just investing in them so they can move along with you in the new year, you know?
Okay. It makes sense now. So from your experience, what do employees typically go through that will make them leave, right? What are some reasons why some employees, especially in Ghana, will decide to leave? Because I think some employees also, there's this whole authority type thing that we don't feel comfortable walking even to the HR's office to tell them that something is worrying me.
I think it's really unfortunate because you miss out on a great opportunity, you know. So we had one of our, we recruited a gentleman for one of our clients, and he would call us constantly because we provide them consultancy services once they've been hired. And he calls us constantly because things weren't going right and he wanted to switch jobs. I'm like, wait, but you just got this position, so just calm down. And for him, the role that he was hired for had changed when he started. And he wasn't getting the money. No one's given him like a new offer letter with his new responsibility. I said, have you gone to HR? I said, listen, before you decide to leave, just go to HR. Do you know what's funny? I called him yesterday because I was telling our HR manager, Seth, and I said, wow, I haven't heard from this gentleman in a long
He's not complaining.
time. Yes. I said, he was like, oh, he called me yesterday. He's happy now. Everything is fine. Only because he went to HR and he asked. He asked for what was rightfully his. He didn't wait and sit there and became miserable for somebody to, because you don't know, you could be leaving a potentially great position and probably going somewhere else where you'd be more miserable. So they say, water your grass. Water the grass where you are, right?
So how do we incentivize our employees? What are some things? I mean, it's difficult to have this conversation where we know people are not even being paid, but those of us who are getting paid, who are paying our employees on time, what are some additional incentives, not just monetary, that will help them feel valued so that they don't think, oh, my employer just waited to the end of the year to do this because they want me to stay, but they will feel valued throughout the year.
So obviously monetary, I'm sure, comes in at number one, right? Because everyone wants that
Everyone wants more money.
You know, but I mean, you can simply get them tickets to go and see a play, a movie, take them on a retreat, you know, if it's a couple that are probably getting married, send the couple somewhere. You know, it's not every employee that gets a reward, obviously. But if you have had your system in place, then you know who those star employees are. So at the end of the year, do something rewarding, you know, send them somewhere that you think would make them happy. And it's not even that expensive to do, you know, but definitely I think the retreats, because you can do individual incentives and then you can also do group incentives. And I think the retreats are more, holiday parties, those are more like group incentives.
Now let's get back to the original point you mentioned about companies overstaffing. How do we become more intentional about the hiring process? Throughout the year, we've heard of banks who had a lot of staff. Even when the consolidated bank happened and they said we're going to downsize, they faced a lot of backlash from people because it seems as though because we have such a high rate of unemployment, the minute I start my company, I have to employ everyone. You know, and even if they're not being, even if they're not being productive, you still employ them, and as though people will brag like, we're a team of 100, as if it's a great thing, even if they could have just done with 10 people.
Exactly.
So how do we get to a point where we focus on quality and not quantity, and also, you know, pick the most productive labor force, not just people who are just going to be standing around and idling by all day?
Exactly. So this is actually something that we had to personally experience. I remember when I first relocated to Ghana 5 years ago, I was excited, you know, KUSI consultant. Oh my gosh, I only have to pay this amount of cities. So, you know, and I did. And then I think I had like within a 3-month period, everyone just started dwindling down because as an employer, I wasn't doing the right things by the employees, you know, but we do a lot of financial auditing. Let's audit the books. Let's do this. But we do not do HR audits. We don't audit the people.
How important is it to audit the people?
It's extremely important because in a lot of cases, the issue isn't that you need to hire. You might not necessarily need to hire. You just need to review job descriptions. You may need to adjust roles. You may need to do some reshuffling with the people within the organization, you know, but you have to make sure that you've done everything possible to make sure that the people are working in their right and their respective roles before you reach out and say, you know what, it's time to bring on a new staff, because then you have confirmed that, yes, we've gone to a point where we do need to bring on, you know, new team members. We're not just, you know, guessing that we need. Sometimes you really just don't. Sometimes it's, especially for entrepreneurs, sometimes it's you really just working, doing everything. And then when you get to that point where it's like, you know what, it's time for us to evolve. Now I need to bring in an assistant. I need to bring in someone to assist. So yeah, we need to really pay attention more to HR audits and clean house. At the end of every year, you know, you should be able to do a review of your organization, of your company, and make sure that the right people are in the right place before you hire.
Speaking of the right people in the right place, one thing we've not talked about yet is company culture. How important is that in retaining employees?
Okay. So
and then also employees also stay in there, because if the employees also don't like the culture and they are not saying anything, or let's say I'm a member of the team and I'm harmful to the culture, but I'm not even aware, right? How important is it in because that's not something you put in your resume. We all put I'm a good team player.
Exactly.
But once you get the job, what you do is, you know, it's a different ball game altogether. So how important is that throughout the year?
Well, okay, so does the city have a culture?
Of course we do. We have
you have a culture? Okay.
When people come to our parties, they're like, you guys are awesome.
Exactly.
We're a genuine family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you feel you exude that culture?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't work for City, but I know the City culture, and I can tell the City culture, you know, and so far everyone that I've come across that works at City, I feel like embody and exude that culture, you know, and I think as an organization, you have to set the standard, you know, and a lot of it has to do with the team that you bring in. You know, they have to be able to represent your brand. When you go to events a lot to represent City, when people see you, they have to say, yes, Dziffa works for City. You know, that's how an employer knows that they're doing something right. When they bring on a staff, the staff exudes, you know, the culture, and you feel proud of that culture that City has as well, you know.
But how do like companies who don't have the City culture, how do they get it? Because some people might think, oh, it's just natural that everyone here is positive and we're all happy.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know, like,
they don't know
how
what,
do you,
exactly.
even me, I don't know what the secret bullet is. So how do they get to a point where everyone is happy to come to work in the morning?
It's a plan, it's a document, it's a process. You know, we just created a culture document for one of our clients, and it's a document that you have to make sure that all the staff is aware of, that they know. Everybody has to live and breathe it, right? Because the minute one person kind of deviates from it, it tends to rub off. So you have to constantly do check-ins with your employees and make sure that they understand what the organization represents and that they embody it. And if they don't, then you have to nip it and check it and make sure that they get back on track, you know. But it's a document. It actually should be written down and distributed to all employees. This is our company culture, and we all have to abide by it. You know, because at the end of the day, if I don't abide by the company culture, how do you hold me responsible? I may not necessarily understand when I come in. You understand City's culture because you knew about City. You followed them probably before you started.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you're hiring someone who's
Who has
coming
no
in
idea.
and has no idea, you, the employer, has that responsibility to make sure that the employee is aware
Okay.
of what's going on.
And finally, any tips
Yes.
for employees
Yes, I have
getting to the end of the year?
I have
a
a
lot
lot
of them
of
are
tips.
tired right now.
Yes, employees
Just
are
dragging
tired.
their feet to December,
Make
like
it to
waiting
the
for
end.
Christmas.
Make it to the end. I know that feeling. You know, it was hard getting up this morning. I won't
Oh,
lie.
stop it.
But I commend you all for mastering the art of getting up early. You know, we are experiencing a lot, you know, as a nation, especially with unemployment and the cleaning house and cleaning of industries. And this is natural. It's natural what's happening, but it just seems like
Dramatic.
it's a bit dramatic. You know, what I want to say is that just like how employees at the end of the month are focusing and trying to figure out how to start the new year, new job, new me, you know, employers are also doing the same. They're thinking, how do we clean house, you know, so that we can also start a new year fresh, you know. So if you're passionate about what you do, and you feel like you do want to progress within that organization, then the end of the year, make sure that you are proactive. I mean, attend the holiday parties. Don't talk to your boss. Go talk to the boss's wife.
Hey,
you understand? No,
that's extreme.
no, and not in a negative, not in a, like, don't go and hit on the boss's wife.
So
But
you'll be
it's like,
unemployed.
yes, you have to kind of find ways to make them understand that, yes, I'm really here. I also have...
So make your
I'm
presence
invested.
felt.
Yes, I'm invested in this organization. So if you have not gotten any quarterly reviews, it is okay to go and demand one, you know, not in a hasty way. But yes, you want to know how you've done this year. Show interest in the position, show interest in the company, so that you can also move forward in the new year with them. But it's trying times, you know, and right now it's hard. It's really tough out there, you know. So we have to find innovative ways to retain our job, and then also employers to retain the talent that we have.
Now, any advice for employers who've been slacking on their star employees all year long?
Listen, I don't know if you've looked at the numbers, the turnover numbers, but honestly, it might seem like investing maybe 4,000 Ghana CD to send your staff on a retreat is a lot, but it's probably better than having to invest 1,000, 10,000 to hire, you know, new staff. So let's not think about the short-term, you know, benefits. Let's think about the long-term benefits. You know, I know several companies here in Ghana who actually, they get it, and they are actually doing it right. And they are at the top, you know, when we talk about businesses. So, yeah, for those employers, you have to do the quarterly evaluations. You have to make it about your employees. It's the end of the year. We're tired. I'm tired. You know, so show us that we also matter, and we're not just a number within your organization, because you could lose out on great talent.
Now, if our viewers want to learn more about KUSI Consulting, where can they find you? What do you do? Tell us a bit about your company.
So I am with KUSI Consulting, keeping you simply intact, and that's really what the goal is, to help keep businesses intact. We've worked with several businesses to help them to restructure their team, help them to create policies. We do recruitment, we specialize in training, HR audits. We are all over online, Facebook, LinkedIn,
What's
Twitter,
your
Instagram.
Online name?
Okay, so
social media handle.
So at KUSI Consulting, and me personally is Rita Kusi. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter is Miss_KUSI.
Good.
So and you can email or call us, visit our website, KUSIconsulting.com.
Okay, so if anyone wants more information about HR, especially if you're an employer and you don't know how to retain your employees, this is the time to
here for you.
Perhaps get in touch with a professional to work.